Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 90 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we talk all things flying and aviation in midlife. My name is Ben. I'm a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate. I live in the metro Atlanta area, flying a Cessna 182, some refer to as the Beast. Joining me tonight, as always, are my friends, Brian, a private pilot in Nashville, which is, if you didn't know, it's the home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. He flies a Cherokee 180 we like to call Lucy. Hello, sir.
How's it going, Ben?
It's going very well, thank you. Also joining us tonight, our sport pilot extraordinaire. And I'm still going to put him at the top 3 sport pilots of all time. His name is Ted. He lives in Portlandia, and he flies a Flight Design CTLS. We like to call it Ed. Good afternoon, sir, because it is afternoon where you are.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm very good. I
Good morning,
survived
Ted.
the weekend.
Good morning. Yes, West Coast. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, things are good. So it's going to be kind of a chill night tonight.
Yeah.
Just hang out and do a little talking. I do want to hit a couple of housekeeping items, if I may. For those of you listening to this on the audio podcast, if you want to see our faces that were made for radio, you can watch us on YouTube. We stream Monday nights at 8 p.m. That's our target. Sometimes it changes from time to time, but usually Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got a very active chat room, and we're open for your comments and your suggestions and your questions and whatever else you want to throw in there. Everything you can find on our website, which we are upgrading, well, redoing, probably a better way to say it, rewording, refreshing. Our website, midlifepilotpodcast.com, is where you can find all the links to our great things. Merch store, podcast links, and maybe more importantly, our Patreon link. We've got a very, very vibrant Patreon community who gets access to our Discord server. If you don't know what our Discord service is, you know, I had to learn at a later age. It's just a great hangout. It's a community. Everybody gets to share everything, share their wisdom. It's a really cool feature. We do get a lot of feedback saying this is the best part of the community. So look for us on that. You can consider becoming a member on Patreon. So we've gotten a few new Patreon members.
Yeah.
Ted, do you want to give a shout out to our newest members?
Yeah. It's always cool to see people rolling into the Patreon, and we see some of them pop up on Discord immediately. Some take a little bit longer. Some email us and say, "How do I do this?" Which is totally fine. We can help you out with that. So let me say thanks to our new people. At our Beast Stole Kit level, we have Aaron B. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Matthew Z. We have Banjo Pilot, and we have Mark H. And at Landomatic, we have Ryan G. and Juno P. So thanks all. It's nice to have you. Yeah.
I love how the transcriptions that we have of the podcast transcribe Beast Stolkit as B Stolkit. Stolkett, B Stolkit.
Yes.
So that's what I think of now every time I hear you say
Sounds
that.
like somebody's great aunt.
B Stolkit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who lives down in Mayberry? Aunt B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And by the way, one of the coolest things, we've got another one coming up. So in our community, we have pretty regular inside programming inside the Discord community, where when folks pass their various check rides, we like to do a debrief with them. And I think there's another one scheduled for Wednesday. Is that right?
Yep.
That is
So for a patron who just finished their private pilot check ride, and we put those out all on our Patreon. So you don't necessarily have to be there, but you can join and be a part of the conversation and get firsthand, and ask questions to people that have just gone through whatever they've gone through, and while it's fresh, and it's been great to have those.
There's a lot of benefit on both sides. If you're going through training, it's good to get that feedback. I know DPs are going to be different everywhere, but the gist is going to be the same. But I'll tell you though, as somebody who took their check ride 6 years ago, I still like watching these because it reminds me, oh, you know what? I haven't done that in a while, or I'd kind of forgotten. And it reminds me to refresh myself on certain areas that I have, haven't considered since my check ride. So there's benefits whether you're inexperienced or not.
It reminds me of the things that I was unsure of then and I've forgotten about that are just natural now. And yeah, so that's really helpful. Also, to me, one of the real benefits is, as the person, when you're going through the check ride and you're done, and let's say your non-flying spouse is like, okay, you got done with the FAA inspector and that's it. And it's, well, I want to talk about this amazing 7-hour experience that I had, but there's nobody that has the depth that really is that interested in it. And it's like, oh, we'll get into that depth with you. Right.
Yeah.
And, we'll ask you all those questions, and that value to that person and also to everyone else is huge for me.
It's funny because when you pass your check ride, your immediate community that maybe knows you've been taking lessons, or they kind of hear it and go, well, you of course you passed the test for the thing that you've been training for nonstop and talking about all the time and stressing out about and whatever. So of course you passed the thing.
Right.
But it's hard to relay the feeling of pride and relief that comes with that. And what I like especially about what our community brings to the table is that we have all been through or have just gone through or are about to go through that strange turnabout where you get your private pilot check ride done, and then you've been working so hard that it's sort of like the dust settles on that. You have all this relief, you're excited, but then it's sort of, the realization that now this is all on you. And, there's nobody watching anymore. And, you're allowed to go out on your own now. And so what are you going to do? And so we've got episodes about that. We have a lot of conversations about that. And I think that's a really interesting time. And people, I think, have a lot of common things they want to do. They want to fly their friends and family, things like that. I can say for me, I don't know about you guys, in retrospect, looking back to where I was, the first flight I did after the check ride, I just did a flight by myself to sort of experience the, whatever that was on my own. And then I, took a passenger or whatever. So I think, a lot of people are in a hurry to do a lot of things, and, that's all good and fine, but there's a lot of stuff to think about. So we talk about a lot of those things. And I like what Adam's comment is here. Also, if you don't pass, we want to hear about that too. And not only do we have an episode where Nathan Ballard talked about the value of check ride failures, we celebrate all kinds of pseudo failures in our community,
or no-go decisions
Absolutely.
Or things like that.
And I think that there's not enough of that in the aviation community. I mean, a go-around should be round of applause, a no-go decision, round of applause, fail check ride, expensive round of applause, but it's going to work out and you're going to be fine and you'll be better for it. And, Ben, you had a lot to say about that too.
Yeah. I mean, I failed my private pilot. I failed the last maneuver. And I've said it many times before, you learn so much more from your failures than you do your successes. And one other aspect of the community that I wanted to bring up that I find is pretty cool. 2 years ago, was it 3 years ago when you and Chris really got rolling?
Mhm.
Maybe 4 years ago. There was a tight knit group. I liked how you phrased it. It was strong, small but mighty group of people.
Mm.
And, it was just us supporting each other. But what's been really a lot of fun is it's almost generational. We now have, when somebody says, I'm going through a rough patch with my landings, I felt like it was me and maybe Josh would encourage that person on how to work their way through it. Now there's a whole cadre of people that went through that same thing who are now saying, this is how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And it does feel kind of generational type.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
I
sort of
think
a
that's really
micro-generational way.
Yeah.
Also, if you're having a rough patch with your landings, try actually landing on the runway, right? As opposed to. All right. I tried.
Sage advice from our friend Brian.
Yeah,
As
those are
always.
also stories that can be shared in Discord, which is
Mhm.
a great spot to put your small failures that
Yeah.
that you've learned from.
Right.
Really appreciate that too.
Yeah. I like that there's a good enough, I don't know. It's a place that is quality enough that people will really open up about the things that otherwise maybe would be too prideful to admit, about how it's not about I did something wrong as much as it's about this is how I felt. This is how I emotionally reacted to this. And this is how maybe I beat myself up. And so there's a lot of help on the way for, because we've
It's
all.
a safe space. It's a
Yeah,
safe space
yeah.
for you to open up to the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Ted should put shirtless pictures in there or anything. It's not, let's not get crazy.
Is this an intervention? Is this? I'm sorry. I need to stop doing that. You're saying? Yeah.
So Ted, there's something we've been meaning to tell you.
Yeah.
Everybody here loves you. Yes.
Is that a sport pilot thing? Is that all you need is a driver's license and no shirt?
Yeah, exactly. No shirt, no shoes. You're a sport pilot now. Yeah.
You can even wear sandals if you want to.
Yeah. Oh man.
So tonight we just wanted to do a little hangar talk. A couple of weeks ago, we were on a chat and I said, well, I just got back from an interesting flight. And I think Brian said, oh, I just got back from an interesting flight. And I think Ted said, I just got back from an interesting flight. So we thought we'd spend tonight talking about our interesting flights.
Yeah.
So I nominate Brian to go first because none of us really know deeply what the other went through. So I'm very curious to hear your adventure you had a couple of weeks ago, or do you even remember it?
I did. It was like, I wonder what he's talking about. I remember saying that, and then I also remember that I didn't remember that. And I've also done a pretty good amount of flying lately, but maybe we can just
was it
talk about
I'll
it from
go.
that perspective.
We'll go before you. Was it with, just to try to jog your memory? Was it with Autumn?
No, that definitely had its own interesting moments for sure,
Okay,
because there was just a lot of. I'll talk about that one. So we had a plan to go somewhere. We were going to go somewhere. I forget where even now. It was just going to a place, maybe somewhere in Illinois or something, from Bowling Green. And there were definitely clouds going on, and obviously I'm just a VFR bug smasher guy, and as for now at least. But those clouds, all the reporting and everything that I was seeing, I mean, you could go outside and be like, okay, there's plenty of gaps and all that, but it's also pretty, there's multiple layers going on.
Right.
And they're building.
Right.
And, but I was in that mindset of just, we'll just go up and have a look and just see what it is. As long as we have ground contact and we're not concerned with, things closing in, which it was not going to, based on everything that was kind of happening. Pretty cool. So, okay, we go up, but it was one of those, I'm getting flight following and I'm going, we're trying to go due northwest, and I'm coming out of, south, then east, and then, I'm doing all kinds of turnabouts to try to find the best opening to get up above all that. Cause I want to say it was something like, a layer at 2,000, 3,500, 5,500, and then 7,000 or something. It was a lot of just, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, found a pretty good gap, started climbing up through that. And it kind of felt like, canyon flying or something,
Yeah.
And I'm already on with Memphis flight following and telling them where we're going and everything and getting on flight following. And it was just one of those things where I requested 4,500, and then I requested 6,500, and then I requested 8,500, and then I was 10,500. It was just climb, and it got to the point where I just realized this is a little ridiculous. We're just trying to go about an hour and 20 minutes away. I kind of wanted the challenge. I just wanted to get to a vantage point to see what was really going on, because I really felt like it was everything I was seeing was basically saying that it was just in that area generally, and if we went west, that things would be cool,
Right?
or just the tops would calm down, and then. But it was just too much, and we were trying to go northwest, and then all of a sudden, convective things started to happen en route, not where we were, but just down the way.
You could see it, yeah.
And so it was great because we just turned left, and then it looked better. And we made it through, but we did a lot of climbing, a lot of cloud dodging and all that. And honestly, it's really fun.
Yeah.
There's, as much as I'm ready to do my IFR work that I need to do, there's something about just the unholy exercise of, trying to find a gap, trying to get through the, I don't know. There's something really fun about that. I think that I will miss that. Do you still do that kind of thing, Ben?
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely, I do. So I don't file every single time, number one. Number two, even if I'm on an IFR plan, and I know exactly, everybody that's flown for a while probably knows what you're talking about, where you get, they just start to build up and they're just starting to climb higher and higher. And I'll just ask ATC, can I get 10 left and right as needed? And they'll give that to me. And so I'll just start, it'd be like pylon racing where you're just kind of figure eighting between these different columns. But I do that.
Well, the good news is it's super easy to calculate your precise distance from clouds for maintaining cloud clearance.
Yes.
But if you're on an IFR plane, you don't have to worry about it.
But I know exactly what you're saying with that.
Out. Yeah.
You get a ruler out there?
It's amazing. Every cloud is 1,000 feet away. Every time. I don't know how that happens. Yeah.
It's an optical illusion. It just happens every single time.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a fun day though. And it's a good exercise too, just to, for you to have that experience of thinking, okay, we'll get to 6,500. It'll be fine. And then you have to realize, okay, well, maybe we should be at 10,000. The next time you make that flight, you'll know, let's just go 10,500 from the get-go and try to get above it, as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Or there's a good experiences you can pull from that.
And part of it too, honestly, was that since my friend Autumn was with me, and like I said, she had to suspend her training for a while. She will get back to it. But she had not been in a plane for 4 months. And, we've definitely flown together a lot, but it had been a while. But I knew that she had not done anything quite like this. Like, we actually went to the hangar together. She had not been to the hangar. She had not been around even that kind of, she's been in a flight school. You know what I mean? So for her to be in a general aviation environment in that way was a little bit more new to her. And, taking off with the idea of, I wanted to demonstrate also it's, be flexible. We're just flying. We don't have to be anywhere. You know what? We're just going to hang a left. I know where there's a good restaurant an hour away this way, and it's a beautiful place. We'll cross the Mississippi River. It'll be amazing. Yeah. And that's what we did. So all along that, also flying at 10,500, I don't think she had flown that high. I was also able to show her, here's the pulse oximeter. And, when I'm flying at these altitudes, I check it, this. And she had never done any of that kind of cloud dancing, so all of it was so new to her. And I really feel like some people get those experiences, but I really wanted to have those experiences when I was training, and I just never had an opportunity for that. If somebody just would have taken me up to show me, to demonstrate, this is what it's all about. This is what it's going to be like for you as soon as you get done and before you get your instrument rating. And these are the kind of conditions that you're going to be totally fine flying in, but you got to think about, and you got to, be flexible. Yeah. It was like a very non-volatile flight, fun flight, but still got an opportunity to demonstrate a lot of things. And she really loved the, we've got to find a hole to get back down through. And so that was a pretty fun, you don't normally do that kind of flying when you're just in normal cruise, right?
Or in training. Yeah.
Or in training, unless it's, So it was just a lot of fun. She just did she was able to experience a lot of just pure flying, decision-making, sights that she hadn't seen. And it makes you feel like you're in a fast plane. It was cool.
Right.
Well, and the plane isn't due back in an hour and 7 minutes from now. And you've got 50 minutes of flying to do, we're going to take off when the plane's ready, and we're going to land when we're done. And it takes us more time. That's fine. And it's completely different than the, especially renting from a busy school where everybody's waiting for it right afterward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ted, I want to hear about your, something about orcas. I mean,
yes. Before we talk about that, though,
from the air, or
I'm going to tell you, the flight I did yesterday was really similar to that one you did with Autumn, which was.
Well, you tell me,
a fellow sport pilot who's low hours and is renting from 2 schools in town that have sport planes, except for the one that was crashed. For people that aren't watching the video, I held my finger up long enough that all of a sudden balloons appeared. Let's see if a thumbs up does it. It's doing the emoji react thing.
Go. AI.
So yeah.
Does mine do that?
I think it's a Mac thing.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So anyway, so he's low hours. He's under 100 hours, and he's renting from these 2 schools, but one of them, the plane was crashed. So down to one school that the one plane's really busy. He's wanted to go to some destinations that are further away. And I was like, great, let's go. So it was about a 3-hour flight to the very bottom of Oregon down to Crater Lake. I said, well, you know what? You've got ForeFlight. You do the planning. And I said, don't overdo it. Like, the kind of planning I'm talking about is what airports have bicycles, and roughly here's the route we're going to take. Not a check ride plan. So he planned that. We went down there. He hasn't done a ton of flight following or flying through a Charlie. So it was, it's good for him to hear that and hear me mess up on all that. Then we got down to Crater Lake, and we stopped to eat at Chiloquin, which I'm still not sure I'm saying that right. All these great, hard to pronounce names. Chiloquin has one restaurant in town, so we walked 3/4 of a mile to it. So, then climbed to 10,000 feet, put us over the top of Crater Lake, circle it, get some great pictures, and it's just so blue. It doesn't look believable. And I've seen it once, maybe twice in my life, and I'm from the West Coast. So to just fly over it and be back home in the same day is just amazing. So
we've said it before. You live in a Ansel Adams painting.
I know.
Just every single flight you take is a postcard.
I know.
It's
just so you know, it would be a photograph if it were Ansel Adams, but
thank you. Yes, you're right. You're right.
But
I knew that.
I bet he could paint too.
I bet it's a painting of an Ansel Adams photograph.
There you go.
Ted, where you live, it looks like a painting of an Ansel Adams photograph.
Because a lot of his stuff was Yosemite and everywhere else. So.
Yeah. It's just, so it was a great day for that. And we had some pretty good turbulence on the way back. We decided that it was a day for pilots to fly. It was not a good day for a non-flying passenger to be in the plane. But we had a great time. So,
awesome.
So I just wanted to mention that because it reminded me of Autumn. flying with Autumn. And just that,
did he have anything that he particularly took away from it after it was done?
He enjoyed.
He said, "I'm never flying with this guy ever again."
Exactly.
And there's no cup holders.
And
There are 2 cup holders in mine.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Excuse me.
there's no ashtrays though.
No
How dare
ashtrays,
you?
That's right.
Yeah. Usually my OB mug is in one and my water is in the other. So it's kind of a drag to have a passenger like using one of them. So yeah. No, he liked the radio work. It's very interesting to fly out of a Delta that is, when the controller has lunch, it becomes an untowered field for 45 minutes. And that crazy experience was fun for him. So
do they announce it?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
That's good.
But if you come in after they make the announcement, the way, how actually, you listen to ATIS. And if it's giving minute weather, if it's giving the robot weather, then it's not towered. If it's giving your human spoken weather, then it's towered. So
if it's in Georgia, the ATIS would say, "We're going to lunch. It's now uncontrolled field."
Yeah. So it's a new airport for me, and it's been interesting to get used to that, and the different flows of being untowered and then becoming towered and all of that. So
now you mentioned that you had some hiccups on the radio. What happened there?
Oh, I'm trying to remember, but just the normal stuff. It's like fumbling over where you're going or what your tail number is, which you should know by now. Just that normal, mishearing a call. It's that kind of stuff.
I feel like I will go through rough patches with landings, and then I'll go with rough patches on talking on frequency.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it just comes and goes.
Yeah. I had a quick little thing I'll add, Ben and Ted, is I was coming through Nashville's airspace last week. It was very, very, very busy to the point where I was amazed that they allowed me to come through, but I was already, they had to deal with me because they got the handoff. So, but they were turning down any new requests, and it was just a mile a minute. And when I got handed off from, I suppose it was the approach controller that is on the east side of the Charlie, to then getting handed off internally to the approach controller for the west side of the Charlie. That internal handoff, I'd never experienced this before, but they told me to go to this other frequency. I mean, everything's just like, and I go to the other frequency, and as soon, it's funny because we had RH on, and he was saying, rightfully, you don't need to check in right away, just relax, and all that. In this situation, I've never had this happen before, but I said, okay, I'll go over to this frequency. I hit the flip flop, and as soon as I did it, they were calling my name, my call sign, and saying, I need 10 left, 3,500, and it was. Yeah.
Calling in the blind is wild when that happens. Yeah.
So I just thought, well, I don't have to check in now because
I've got to get the corrections department. Thanks, Mark, Wendell Geek, about the robot weather, the minute weather, and a towered field. He says that's not always true. My home airport, which is towered, has robot weather and a tower. So
yeah.
Apparently it's not always, the hourly letter human speaking it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But anyway, I thought, Ben, you might appreciate that. I'm sure you deal with all kinds of things down where you are.
Well, it's kind of a good segue into what happened with me. So I need to set it up a little bit. The Beast has a audio panel that was made in the 1820s. And as our friend of the show and who we've had on, Lord Alpha Juliet, says, it's the Cuisinart, because when you select the radio buttons, which comm and nav you're using, it looks literally like a Cuisinart from the 1970s, red and white buttons going all the way across.
Nice.
And our avionics guy had told us at our last annual, it's It's hanging on by a thread. And I have conferred with my partner, my brother-in-law, like it's time. We need to spend the money. So anyway, we meaning AJ and I, this always happens, something's always going on when AJ's in the airplane with you, especially when he's the passenger. We go down to Peach State, to Barnstormers, one of our favorite haunts. We met fellow Patreon supporter, Plain Places. And he flew his Comanche in there. Actually flew to Thomaston first and then flew into there. We did a formation takeoff, and then he blew by me in a matter of seconds. But we get down there and we have a great lunch hanging out. We also had AJ's daughter, whose name is DJ. She was in the plane with us. And we leave Barnstormers, we leave Peach State Airport, and we get on with Atlanta Approach. And we ask for over the top of Hartsville, clearance into the Bravo and go over the top of Hartsville. We've done that 100 times. And it was very similar weather to what you were describing, Brian. They were starting to climb and we were having a harder time to maintain it. And we were already in the Bravo airspace. And so I asked for a pop-up IFR, which, we're practically over the airport at this point in time. And that's the easiest thing for them to do is just to go ahead and clear us. And so we got on IFR, and I would say we're on IFR for about 15 seconds when all my audio went out. I could not hear myself talk. I could not hear AJ. I couldn't hear anything on the radio. And for those of you, so we use Garmin 430 for our COM1 radios, and it has the little RX when somebody's talking. And then it has the TX when you're transmitting. I could see the RX. I don't know. I didn't know they were talking to me, but somebody was on frequency talking. So I know that worked. And when I pushed my push to talk, I can't remember I don't think I saw a TX, or maybe I did see a TX, but I don't know. I couldn't verify if my voice was going out over the frequency.
Right.
And I'm looking at circuit breakers. I'm looking, another unusual thing that happened in the 1800s when they were building audio systems is I actually have a separate intercom interface. My audio panel does not have a built-in intercom. So when it's functioning properly and you push the push to talk, a red light comes on the intercom. That wasn't working. So I didn't know if it was a failure at the intercom level or the audio panel level, but Did
you press phono?
If I could have found it, I would have. But there was no button for that. But anyway, we cycled everything off, turned it back on, and I'm starting to go through my lost comm procedures, and I literally had my thumb on the transponder, getting ready to hit 7, when it just was poof. It came back on, and everything worked great. But it was a solid 45 seconds to a minute. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
It's happening.
Yeah, this is happening.
And you're IFR at that time, right?
I am IFR at that time.
Yeah. On an IFR plan, yeah.
Yeah, I was on an IFR clearance at that point, which I was thinking about after the fact. It would have been infinitely worse if I was on a VFR plan. Yeah. If I am supposed to stay away from other traffic, I'm not in two-way radio communication, I'm in a Bravo, and they knew that I was going to McCollum because when we got flight following, we put that information in there. But I was thankful to be on the IFR plan.
What altitude were you?
5,000 feet.
Going direct over the airport?
Yep.
Now, if you were, say, 5,500 going east, and by the way, when you were before you got an pop-up IFR, were you on an assigned heading?
I was.
Okay. So let
me mention this because I think I know where you're going. When you're asked for clearance to go over the top of Hartsville, it doesn't matter your direction of flight. A, you're going to be on a 180 or 360 heading. B, they're either going to have you at 4,500 or 5,500. or 4,000 or 5,000 if you're on IFR. Most of the time when I'm on an IFR plan, they will ease me into the Bravo on either the east or west side, but they won't put you over the top.
So you cannot fly east to west across that Bravo?
No, you are going to be on a north-south heading. I mean, you may be at 190 or...
What are the runways?
The runways at Hartsfield are east-west.
They're 927, yeah.
But when you're crossing over them, you're going north-south.
I can see. For some reason, I thought that it was north-south, and I was confused. Okay.
Yeah, no, they are all east-west oriented.
Okay.
So anyway, it turned out fine, but I mean, I think I was more frustrated with the fact that I'm not going to have to drop $5,000 or $6,000 on a new audio panel, and this is one more thing that's going to keep the plane down for 2 or 3 weeks, and more of the hassle factor with it. Where I think 2 years ago I would have been, it's lost comms. What do I do? What do I do? But I mean, I kind of had my game plan laid out. I'm going to squawk 7,600, and I'm going to keep going north to get out of their airspace, and then I want to hope McCollum gives me a light gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were VFR, never got the pop-up IFR, lost comms direct over Hartsfield, same plan?
It would have been a little bit more challenging with staying clear of the clouds. There would have been a lot of dodging.
Mm-hmm.
Just it sounds like it's the same environment that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think my workload would have been higher, would be the only difference. In others, I've got to keep an eye out for traffic. I got to stay away from these clouds. I've got to squawk 7,600 and come up with a plan to ensure that McCollum knows that I am, NORDO, and that I need to get in and do all that. It happened to me earlier in my 17 hours into my private pilot career after passing my check ride. I was NORDO. And I stayed out of their airspace and circled north of the airport until, and I kept looking for a light gun signal. And it was funny because the kid on the merry-go-round who's always looking at you, and then as soon as it goes the other way, he turns around and looks the other way. I'm like trying to keep my eyes on the tower the entire time to see if I see a light gun. And finally, they just call on the radio saying, if you can hear me, you're clear to land.
Yeah.
Having gone through that, I knew what to kind of expect out of the tower. So, one dull geek asked, I wonder what would have happened to Atlanta flights if you were 7,600 over the top of the airport. That's a great question. I feel like what would have happened is they put you there because that is the safest place you can possibly be, is right over the top, because the majority of the airplanes are on the ground and you're not going to be in conflict with them.
And if they know your intentions, they know where you were headed at that point. And
that's
exactly that would help.
Right.
If you were just wandering through the airspace, it'd be a different story.
And AJ does bring up a good point. He said, after we had the first issue, I was on my handheld listening in case it failed again until we were clear of the Bravo. I did have my handheld in my bag, but I had a trusty passenger who also carried a handheld, and I was busy flying the plane, and he offered to pull his out of his bag and try to monitor.
Yeah.
There was almost a slight disappointment in that we kind of wanted to test the handhelds to see if they could hear us but the radio came back quicker than we had an opportunity to really test it out.
Don't they love that though in a Bravo when you're like radio check?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go 7,600 and see if you can hear me on the handheld. Like, sir, please don't. Yeah.
The thing is, they're busy, but you can fit that in. It's not so rapid fire that you can't get a word in edgewise. Yeah. There are times when it is that way. Don't get me wrong. And I'll tell you this as well. If they are that busy, they're not going to clear you into the Bravo to begin with.
Yeah.
If they're on a heavy push or there's weather systems east or west of the airport, they're not going to let you in at all.
And does that have anything to do with you being with Alpha Juliet? Do you feel like you were just getting preferential treatment?
So I've thought about that a lot. I feel like on the radio side, I was probably been giving a pass, but on the Ghost in the Machine, I think somehow AJ exacerbated any issues that are forthcoming.
Yes.
Because we had lost the alternator when we were supposed to meet him in
Oh, yeah.
Owensboro. I mean,
It does seem that the causation is not correlation, but hey, let's just look at the whole thing here. What's happening every time?
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Now, Mountain Rat Matt in the comments said, so interesting to hear that you'd rather be NORDO IFR than VFR.
So there's a very specific reason. The reason I say that is there is a very specific procedure that you do when you're NORDO IFR. And ATC knows what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing, and we're all on the same plan. And I think it just eases your workload. With VFR, I mean, if I was on flight following, they knew where I was going. But sometimes when you go do a long cross country and you're doing VFR flight following, your information doesn't always get passed on to the next controller. Because there's been multiple times, and I know you guys had the same experience when they come on and they say, tell me your destination again.
Yeah.
So, I feel like IFR, as weird as it may sound, it's less of a workload.
Yeah. Now, you talked to your avionics guy. Is that Mick?
That is Mick.
Yeah.
We've got some options. By the way, he recommended that I spray contact cleaner, electrical contact cleaner, and we have not had a problem since. So we're going to baby this thing along. But we've got kind of a plan of action. My avionics guy is sort of homeless right now as far as hangar space, but he's bought a new hangar. It's brand new. He's waiting for the CO for the county to clear them to move in.
Cool.
And I've got my eye on a couple of panels. It's the thing with the panels, the parts aren't that expensive. It's going to be a complete tear down of the avionics, the panel, all the upholstery comes out because we got to rewire all the jacks. It's going to be more in labor than it is in parts.
Right.
That's exciting though. I mean, they're gonna find, like old Sony Walkman back there, and they're gonna find. I
think he's anxious because there's probably still copper wire from the '60s, and there's gonna be enough copper in there probably for him to sell and double his money. But
there'll be some wiring in there that's fabric wrapped in a nice paisley pattern.
Oh yeah, I remember that stuff.
Probably, yeah. But I've got a couple of, it's such an interesting leap from where this audio panel is to what's very affordable today. It's going to have the recording where it plays back the last, 30 seconds of ATC. It'll have the identifier. If we get a new radio, which we may do, it'll have the identifier who you're talking to. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
And you still you're going to keep the catalytic converter and all of the other Malaise era.
Well, the ashtrays are staying.
Yeah.
Ashtrays are not going anywhere.
I'm excited for you. I think that's, I don't know. Please keep us all posted. This is,
part of the
no
problem,
good time to do it though.
Well, I've been wanting a new panel, a much more comprehensive makeover, and we're not ready from an expense standpoint to do that. But my conversation with my brother-in-law was, whatever we do, let's make sure that it'll integrate into what we plan to do in the future, which should be easy enough. You buy a Garmin audio panel, it should be pretty easy. So.
And make the panel of Theseus out of it. Let's replace one component at a time. Yeah.
We've been placing one cylinder at a time. We're basically doing that with the engine now anyway. So why not do the panel the same way?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you the orca story that I had.
Yeah.
So that's Orcas Island, which is one of the San Juan Islands. And a friend of mine and I were going to go up and fly up, get some lunch. And it's under 2 hours flight up there. And it's great because the only way to get there otherwise is by ferry. And it takes many, many, many hours. So going by plane is so much fun. And we flew up there. There'd been thunderstorms in the area the day before, and that morning there was still some clouds, but it was clearing out by noon. I was like, great. Well, on the way back, getting down just south of Seattle, and I had, well, let's play what the controller told me here.
03 Tango, there is heavy to extreme precipitation from your about 11:30 to 3 o'clock. The stuff out in front of you is about 30 miles ahead of you, and I can't really see how far it extends south of Olympia.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll go on the east side then. Thanks. 503 Tango. It was his way of subtly telling me to change where I was going.
Yeah.
So when you get those comments from approach like that, and you get the idea they're trying to tell you what you're doing is probably not a good idea, without telling you please don't do that. So I sat there, and I'm not used to this. This is in 500 hours is the first thunderstorm that I've needed to route around,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm sitting there doing the work on the iPad, looking to see where it is, looking at my options, seeing where it's headed, everything else, and really, trying to figure that out. And the problem is that when you go from Seattle to Portland, there's a relatively narrow valley for flying in, and I realized, as I'm flying down here, I'm going to be further east than the airports that I normally consider at the edges of the valley. And it's like, okay, Toledo, I don't fly east of Toledo normally. And now my only safe route is to be east of what I consider the eastern edge of where I'd fly. So I'm sitting there thinking about that, trying to decide what to do. And that's when I realized what I was doing, that I needed to change my plan. So here's the next clip.
Okay, we're going to divert. I'll explain why in a minute. Seattle, 503 Tango is going to divert to Pierce Field.
At number 503 Tango, you said you're going to divert to Pierce County?
A firm, 503 Tango.
At number 503 Tango, roger. Maintain VFR outside of McCord's Class Built airspace.
Maintain the VFR, 503 Tango. Okay, I'm going to be busy for a minute. So. Yep.
So that was like, okay, this is my last chance. The next airport down that is kind of under the cell, this is when I need to make the choice to divert. And I was over McCord Air Force Base at the time, which is what he was saying. And I was less than 10 miles from this airport. So it was like, okay, this is going to get really busy. I'm going to divert. I need to make sure that I know where this airspace is. And then I'm going to need to figure out how I'm getting in and what their weather is and everything else. So my friend who's flown with me quite a bit, but is a non-pilot, I was like, all right, I'll get back to you later. We're going to do all this. So
Yeah.
that was fine. Did that, got in, had an adventurous landing, and got inside the plane down really well, and then went into a restaurant right there and just kind of parked for about an hour and a half and waited for it to pass, and learned the value of windy, how much better it is for updates, which again, my first experience of being up close to this, right? I'm not used to that level of detail. And yeah, so we watched it kind of blow over. We watched other planes flying in it. And we're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, oh, wait, you're going north. I'm going south. So you're fine. You're not headed where I am though. But and saw some real adventurous landings from other people as well. So
it's interesting to me that 90 episodes into this, well, 50 for you and I, that Brian and I now have to tell you, so Ted, this is a thunderstorm. This is what they look like. This is where you need to be careful to. No, it doesn't happen where you are that often. And if you haven't experienced, it's something that, it's eye-opening, and you've not gained another level in your experience.
I can vouch for Wendy also, and Wendy is also vouching for Wendy in the chat. But yeah, I mean, it took, I don't know if this is a new thing or if I just noticed it, but I had it open at one point recently, and I just kept getting these little haptic vibrations of the phone or little tick sounds. And it does that with the lightning strikes.
Yep.
And it took me forever to figure out what was going on. It was, sort of old man yelling at cloud for a minute. Like, what is going on?
And
Yeah.
it would also make a noise too. You'd feel the haptics of it, but it would also, you'd hear a little cracking. And I finally had to figure out how to turn it off because it was freaking me
wild.
out.
It's so, this is really cool. How do I turn this off now?
I was talking to my neighbor the night after that, and their family just flown back into town, and he said, "Oh, it was so weird. We flew in, and they made us translate. They made us go around, and it was a steep climb, and a couple of the kids threw up in the plane, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I went back to Live ATC and listened through a patch of it for about 6 audio channels on Live ATC, and realized what happened was, because there wasn't much of a storm here, it was all up by Seattle, but a bunch of planes had to divert from Seattle. And so in a 30-minute period, I heard 3 minimum fuel calls from airliners. So Portland got really busy with, Lufthansa coming in from Germany that had to divert from Seattle to Portland, and all this craziness going on. And so it's just kind of funny to go back the next day and kind of research the rest of that and see how kind of chaotic Seattle had gotten through that. So
yeah. Well, good job, and your friend had a fun experience too.
Yeah. He got an experience.
I still find it kind of odd with all the rain you have that you have so little in the way of convection.
Yeah,
but a couple of comments that I wanted to get to. Michael G. Mike Alpha Golf. I don't know why I can't talk. Maybe it's the bourbon I'm drinking. Back to my experience about being NORDO IFR, he made a comment, and NORDO IFR in VFR conditions is not NORDO in the soup with low IFR conditions, which is a great distinguishing point.
Yeah,
I can see outside that piece of it was not a problem. So, and
probably should have clarified that. Yeah, like not to be conflated with IMC.
Yes,
right.
Easier.
Right. We were in VMC conditions, so a lot of fun being made of the beast. Our friend Barry's saying, you'll get 200 pounds of new useful load by getting rid of all the ancient audio equipment that I have, and he actually may be right. So
it's pretty incredible how much that stuff can make a difference. And your CG is pretty forward, so
it is. I need some ballast in the back, but
yeah.
And
the new avionics are generally a lot lighter too, and so a lot less wiring. A few
other comments I thought were funny. The braided cable signed by Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Yes, Peter, I will do before and after pics for the group. So
of the plane or of you? Is that of the plane or of you, Ben? The before and after pics?
Probably both. There'll be a more relaxed face on the camera on the after side of it, because I'm still waiting for for the audio panel to fail again.
Yeah. Alyssa said she gained 10 pounds of useful load after her avionics upgrade. So lost 10 pounds of avionics. That's wild. Yeah.
And I can say that, in a Cherokee 180, we both have basically the same plane. That's basically putting like a turbo on the plane.
Yeah. And Mr. Wendell Geek says that Wendell ballast is always available to help with that weight and balance issue. Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and throw in my vote for Wendy too. I find myself using that with a lot more frequency than I used to. So
I think it's really good for long range forecasts when you're just doing your loose planning to just make sure that you can book the plane on the best day or whatever kind of thing, or when it looks most likely. I find the long range forecasting on it to be very, very good. I think the trick for me was just always making sure some of the models, can get wacky. So I tend to stay with the HRRR. But I don't know. It's fantastic. It's awesome. And, when you can just put it in an airport and visualize the wind, how it relates to the runway, that's always nice.
Yeah. Yep.
without going and looking it up, you know?
I don't know what you mean about scheduling the plane, but besides that, it all makes sense. So one mini topic for us here, we were talking beforehand, and it was, how do you decide to fly with someone? So when you have someone that you haven't met or you only know them slightly, what do you think about before you put them in the plane?
Are we going into this now?
Yeah. I think we should take a couple minutes and do this before we wrap.
A little lightning round here.
Yeah.
I would say that when I first got out, like when I first finished my check ride and was kind of getting out there, I was probably not as aware of. I was probably not aware of the things I needed to be aware of, which is just, you know, that's where you are, right? Whether you're flying or riding with someone else or whatever. I just realized pretty quickly that, you know, I had very good experiences flying with other people. I had some, you know, kind of fine experiences. I definitely had some experiences too, where I just, you know, the reality is, even people that are ahead of you by, you know, a bit, not all training is equal. Not all pilots are equal. Not all environments, you know, people are not used to certain, there's just so many, you just realize really quickly there's a lot of variations on a theme there.
Yeah.
The things I look for, to answer this in short order, is I tend to intuit, I think, personalities in terms of hazardous attitudes. If I see somebody that is cavalier or, you know, I don't know, always talking about like the last crazy thing that they did, you know, kind of thing, like, all right, maybe not that. You know, so I look out for some of those obvious signs. And then, you know, I think there's also something to be said about just even the aircraft, you know, as well. But I would say generally in terms of who I would fly with and who I won't fly with, I would say I definitely have some sensibilities around that. I definitely have drawn the lines in my head around, you know, there's certain people that I know might ask me to fly at some point that I already know I'm not interested in getting in a plane with them, or, you know, and that's fine. It's not like I'm better than they are. It's just, we're just in a different spot. So I think that I tend to sense or intuit hazardous attitudes, and that's probably the number one thing. And then the only other factor might be just if you have any sense of how that person handles any kind of stress or difficulty or challenge, you know, and are they kind of, I don't know, is their temperament even or not? So I don't know. I guess it would be more those types of signs. What about you guys?
I'm kind of doing a personality assessment when I'm flying with somebody for the first time. If I haven't had any interaction with them whatsoever, I know some people can be nervous talkers, and, you know, if they're nervous, they're going to say things that they might not say otherwise if they were in a calmer situation. And so I kind of slough some of that off. I can pick up a know-it-all very, very quickly. Who's never flown an airplane that thinks that they could probably fly it better than me. That type of personality. So I try to stay away from those. Or, I'll give them the safety briefing. You know why you're wearing the seatbelts, right? So they know where to find the bodies when we die. You're just trying to kind of level set them a little bit. But just again, it's a personality assessment. I've been in sales for 30 years, and so I kind of had made a living kind of reading people.
Mm-hmm.
And those that make me a little bit nervous, I try to stay away from. So
mine, the kind of the two things that I'm watching for is this somebody who has any idea what being in GA is like? Because it's people to be scared out of it. I'm not going to make big plans if they're going up at all. And then the other thing is I'm such an introvert that do I want to be with this person for more than an hour, which is a small group of people. So
right.
That's, and it used to be when I was 45 minutes away, if I was going to drive someone there, that's an hour and a half just of getting to the airport and back. So it definitely limits the people I'd be interested in going with. So,
right.
Yeah, it's life as an introvert.
But so I just want to finish this up with saying thank you guys both for being willing to get into an airplane that I'm flying.
Yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you that Ted provides really good narcotics for those occasions when I need to get in the plane with you. It makes it look like I'm completely calm. And
yeah.
No, it's a good topic, and I appreciate you asking the question.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of stuff we haven't been able to get to in the chat, and I'm sorry that we haven't. But we do appreciate everybody that joined us tonight. We are starting to run a little bit long. So what do you guys, anything else for the good of the order?
Look, I just want to mention real quick, this thing that Alyssa's talking about in the chat is kind of bonkers. Can we hit that real quick?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Listen, I've got all night.
So she's talking about, what is that? Scroll back, Ted.
Yes,
it was, I'll pull it up. It was who she bought the plane from.
The guy that flew me to Iowa to pick up my plane turned out to not be IFR current, even though we departed on an IFR flight plan in IMC. So, yeah, thing is, he seemed responsible. He even called flight service for a briefing, but he definitely was not proficient.
Wow.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff where, I don't know, might be a good topic to kind of get into at some point. Because, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, if you're going to be in a long flying engagement with somebody doing an important trip, I don't know, flying IFR, I don't know, is it rude to say, to like ramp check this person on your own, just kind of like, I want to see all your documents. I want to see, I don't know.
So this would be we have our friend, Master CFI Nathan Ballard is in the chat with us. I think this would be a great video for him to do is how to assess passengers.
Yeah.
And then we'll follow up with a chat.
Gazillion hours to make a video. So let's just keep recommending videos and add to his backlog and his, he makes such excellent videos because he actually really does them well. And tries and all that. So, let's keep throwing topics at Nate.
Yep.
All right, guys. Ben, you want to send us off?
Yeah, let's send us off. We appreciate everybody listening and being part of our community, our awesome community. We and the rest of the community are your pilot friends. So join us on Patreon, send us a PayPal drop, or just contact us at midlifepilotpodcast.com. Next week, episode 91, we'll talk about, we've gotten some great feedback from one of our supporters, and it was his top 10 tips for student pilots. I think I did that one. I crushed it. I think I got that pretty good. And just as a heads up, we got episode 100 coming up, and some plans are being made. That's all I'm going to say about it. Plans are in the works. So, signing off for episode 90 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. See ya.